Hey guys, I hope you're having a great week. I'm super excited to continue sharing more stories with you. And so last week we talked about how the Lord provided financially for me to go to Zambia, and this week the Lord's really been laying on my heart to share the story of how we traveled to Zambia, because it was nothing like we would have ever expected. We ran into a lot of difficulties. We just felt like we were being attacked by the enemy the entire time. So normally it takes 2 full days to travel to Zambia. So at the end of May, I flew out of my hometown and met the rest of the American interns in Chicago. That was the first time really any of us had met at that point. So it was kind of that awkward first encounter kind of thing. We sat around for quite a while just waiting for boarding time. But during that process, several of the interns had had their name called, and they were told that their their seats had been dropped or something along those lines, and that they would have to fly standby for that flight. It was kind of just right from the get-go. That was the first thing that went wrong. Fortunately, all but one of the interns were able to get their seat back, and the other intern did end up flying standby on that flight, and we flew from Chicago to London. So we got into London around mid-morning on day 2 of our traveling. I don't know if you heard about the British Airways whole system crash back in May, but we were there the day that it happened. Immediately as we were going through security in London, there were rumors floating around that a lot of flights were getting delayed and canceled. We just decided to kind of camp out somewhere, and we sat around in just an open gate for quite a while playing cards and whatnot. So at the time when we were hearing these rumors, we didn't know what was going on or why the flights were possibly getting delayed or canceled. But around 5 p.m. they canceled all flights that were taking off up until 6 p.m. Our flight was supposed to take off around 7, so we were hoping that we just missed the cut and we were going to be able to still leave. And about a half hour later, they did end up canceling all flights that night. They told us that they couldn't access any of their systems. I mean, they couldn't even look people up in their system. It was a huge mess. So at that point, we didn't really know what to do, because there were 50,000 people in that airport trying to leave the airport. We were required to leave. We were not allowed to get our checked bags. We didn't even know if we were going to be able to get on a flight the next day. But immediately we sat down and we booked a hotel, because we knew that hotels were going to fill up really, really fast. People kind of started getting on these random lines, and we didn't really know which line we were supposed to get on. But eventually we did find the exit line, which I think we waited on that for about 3 to 4 hours. We were all very, very exhausted at this point, and so then we waited for another 2 to 3 hours in the custom line just to get out of the airport. So we left the airport around, it was 10:30, maybe even 11 at night. We had to figure out how to take the trains in London, and we're just so exhausted. Like, I'm walking and falling asleep at the same time because I'm just so tired from the day. None of us had the right currency, so we were really relying on those few people that had credit cards with them. So we ended up booking a hotel in Wembley. If you've ever heard of it, Wembley Stadium is there. And by the time we got there, it was very late at night. We showed up, and the hotel managers told us that our reservations did not go through. So here we are, 11 people who just met a couple hours ago, and we have no place to stay for the night, and we're out on the streets in London. Luckily, they were able to work it out, and we did get some rooms, but we had about 11 people sleeping on 3 beds. So if you can imagine that. Also, we were starving. We hadn't eaten anything at all since we had landed, and the only thing that we could find that was open that would accept credit cards was McDonald's. So we ate at McDonald's, and I mean, guys, I can't even explain to you. This was like probably one of the worst days of my entire life. It was beyond frustrating. I hate McDonald's, so I was starving, but I didn't really want to eat it, but I did. It just seemed like one thing after the other. I mean, the whole ordeal was just so stressful, and it just felt like we were never going to get to Zambia. So after a not so comfortable sleep, we got back to the airport pretty early in the morning, hoping that we would get on a flight that night. So now it's day 3 of traveling, And not only are they trying to get all of the people from the day before to fly out, they're also dealing with all the people that had normal flights scheduled on that day. It was an absolute mess. We got to the airport and we just got on a random line because it was like mass chaos. And we waited on that line for about 3 hours. And when we got to the front of the line, we found out that we were on the wrong line. So that was frustrating, but the worker that we ended up getting to talk to was really, really great. She felt really bad that we were on the wrong line, and she pretty much dedicated the next 3 hours to helping us figure everything out. I mean, guys, I literally can't even describe how chaotic this whole place was. People were getting angry because they had to wait so long and that they weren't going to be able to fly out that day. We were traveling in a group of 11 people, so that, was problematic. And even though we had contacted our travel agent back home and they had rebooked our flight for us, our seats hadn't been confirmed and we couldn't do that until we were at the airport. So by the time we got to this lady at the desk, she told us that she couldn't find us in the system at all and that the chances of us getting on a flight that night were pretty slim, but she was going to do the best she could. So over the next 3 hours, it went from, you guys aren't in the system, I'm sorry, you can't fly out today, the next flight is in 2 days, to, okay, well, would you be willing to split up and half of you fly standby today and half of you fly standby in 2 days, to you're all flying standby tonight, to the moment that she handed all 11 of us tickets for the flight that evening. That was probably one of the best moments of my entire life, just knowing that, okay, this whole ordeal is over. We get to continue on traveling. So yeah, we flew out that night after being in London for about a day and a half. It was about a 10-hour flight to South Africa. So we get to South Africa. Now our London flight had left at 9 p.m., but the original flight was supposed to leave at 7. So we got into South Africa we were supposed to get in around 9 o'clock. And we were late getting in, so we didn't get in until almost 9:30, and we were supposed to be boarding our next flight from South Africa to Zambia in about a half hour from when we were supposed to land. Now, in that time, we would have had to go through customs, hope that our bags got there. We had to reprint our boarding passes because they couldn't do that for us in London due to all of their system malfunctions, and go back through security and get to our gate on time. So we knew that was not going to happen in a half hour. So as soon as we got off of the flight, we ran to the nearest service desk and talked with a worker, quickly explained what had happened, and asked if she could call the gate and ask them to wait for us. She called the gate and they said, "I'm sorry, we can't wait for you. You'll have to get on a flight tomorrow." So at that point, we were completely just done. All of us, I think we all cried at some point because it was just the most frustrating experience ever. It's just everything was going wrong. We got online to go through customs. We were all kind of just moping around and I'm trying to call the staff in Zambia to let them know that we're not going to be there today. And it was just really frustrating. And by the time we got through customs, we go to baggage claim and our bags are not there. Lovely, here we are, we're on day 4 of traveling, wearing the same clothes and hoping that we're gonna get our bags at some point. So because of everything that happened in London, they did tell us that our bags might be a little delayed. But when we did get to South Africa, they had this whole wall just stacked of missing bags, basically. So they had us look through all of those to try and locate ours. One of the interns found his bag and that was it. So 1 out of 11. The rest of us had to fill out a missing bag claim thing and hope that they were gonna find them. So then after that, we entered into there's a big open common area in the airport, and we waited for several hours because we needed to call our stateside contact to let her know that we needed to get our flights changed yet again because that flight that we were supposed to be on was the last flight out to Zambia that day. So waiting several hours for that, we were also trying to find the British Airways service desk to try and figure out what we were going to do for the night, because we were going to need housing again. So they gave us hotel vouchers, food vouchers, everything. They provided transportation to this hotel, and by the time we actually got to the hotel, it was so nice. I think I've only stayed in this nice of a hotel one other time in my life. It was absolutely gorgeous. The food was incredible. And even though the whole situation of here we are going on 4 days of traveling was really frustrating, I think we all just needed that night to relax and take a nice shower. And some people tried to wash their clothes in the sink, and I think we just all needed that night. And like, we all got our own giant beds, you know, even though everything had gone wrong, that was like one thing that felt like it went right, that the Lord blessed us and just gave us a good, relaxing night. And we woke up the next day, and it was my birthday, which was kind of fun. So we ate breakfast that morning, which was delicious. And then there was a guy playing piano out in the lobby, and he played me happy birthday. So we got to the airport, and all of the bags had arrived except mine and one other girl's bag. So that was promising for them, though it was kind of still frustrating for us. And we went through the missing bags again and still couldn't find them. So we just trusted that they would show up eventually. Yeah, the rest of that day went really smooth. We went through security just like normal, got on the flight, met some other people on our flight that had also had problems in London, and got to Zambia. And I think the girl and I ended up getting our bags about 4 or 5 days later. So we had a lot of good friends that let us borrow some clothes for a few days. So shout out to you guys, you're awesome. So yeah, that whole experience, I mean, going from a normal 2 days of traveling to basically 5 whole days of traveling was probably the most exhausting, frustrating thing that I've ever gone through. So my encouragement to you today is that if everything keeps going wrong after you've been called to do something, it's probably the enemy trying to get you to change your mind. Because what's the one thing that he hates? He hates when we choose God. So especially on something where you were called to go do an internship for 3 months. I mean, that's a long time of choosing God. He's going to start putting all of these obstacles in your path. Like, look, it's too hard to get there. Just turn around. You know, oh, sorry, I canceled that flight. Turn around, go home, don't go to Zambia, go back. You know, we were all just feeling super attacked the entire time. But we got all the way to Zambia, and then we got to experience incredible things that I'm so excited to share with you in the next coming weeks. So if you ever find yourself in that situation, don't turn around, face it head on. Just keep going down the path that the Lord's been guiding you on, and I promise that you will be so blessed by it. Thanks so much for listening this week, guys. I can't wait to continue sharing more stories with you of when we finally get to Zambia. Go ahead and click the subscribe button, comment below with maybe a crazy traveling story that you've had and how you overcame it. And go ahead and share the video too. I want as many people as possible to hear about how awesome our God is. Thanks, guys. See you next week.